Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, May 12th, 2023. This is the second episode of Neat Network and Cool Capacity. So let's go ahead and open her up since coming fresh off of a recording a few weeks ago. Rick, what's been going on with you? What's new, man?
I have to be honest, nothing new. Working, grinding that out. Trying to get back ahead of some of the chapter stuff for SETE. Since the CLC has closed up and I can move that piece away. Really focused in on, what do I need to do at the chapter level and things there. Business is good. Work's keeping me very busy at Comcast. Always a good thing. I like being busy. I like almost being overwhelmed. That's when I feel in my happy spot, right? So that's about it going on with me. Let's talk a little bit about your week, Eric. What was going on this week with you?
So this week was a pretty busy week. I can't divulge a whole lot of too many details, but due to the fact, that plans change as they always do around here, right? To your point earlier, kind of working under that pressure, right? Feeling overwhelmed. I experienced a very similar thing this week with some of our equipment and plans we had to make around that equipment, new forecasts, new high level overview plans, things like that. So I would say it was pretty busy from that perspective. And then also we had our vendor day this week, which I would honestly say it's probably the best vendor day we've had to date. So that's an early plug for now. And I know Sam would be happy to hear that as well. And so just kind of taking it easy on this Friday afternoon, right? With early outs at 3 p.m. here. So I'm not sure what I'm doing here today, but, having fun, right?
That's what it's all about, right? We're trying to have some fun, bring some awareness to, let's say, the industry, and then around the chapters itself with SETE. So today, just a little preview of what's going to happen on the podcast. Eric and I are going to talk back and forth a little bit about what's going on with SETE for a few minutes, maybe some up-and-coming trainings or events that are on the calendar, not specific to our chapter or our region. I want to know a lot more about the vendor show. I know a little bit from my quick stint in and out of it. I have to say, very good show, very good turnout. Then we got a special guest that we'll bring on. A personal friend to me. I've known our guest for 6, 8, 10 years, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
But over the years, somebody I look up to, I respect a lot. And I don't want to give it away, so we'll get to that in a minute. So,
he's a great
what
guy.
trainings we got coming up, Eric?
So what do we got coming up on our end of the thing? Let's see here. We've got VCMTS Review with Jose Romero from Harmonic on May 18th. We've got Working with 5G and Wi-Fi 6. That's a replay on May 29th. And then going into June, I won't go too far into June, but on June 15th, we've got Serge Mel from Nokia to talk about Transport Networks 101. And how about you?
Fantastic. Interestingly enough, to tie into your VCMTS training, we actually have a training on the 16th of May, which is DAA and RFI. So, 2 days in front of you. I'm looking kind of at the calendar this week, or rather next week. If you look through the training calendar, there's a fiber to the home. There's all sorts of good trainings coming up this week. Gateway's got, looks like Gateway chapter, Cable Tech Games and a golf outing this week. Crystal Coast got a vendor show. A lot to live up with. There's been some really good vendor shows this week. So hopefully everybody's goes as well as, Eric, what I think yours did. And then from there, the next big one that I really want to plug isn't necessarily training. It's some golf outings, right? I think your guys' is coming up pretty soon.
Yes, 26th
Do you know the
of
dates for
July.
your guys's?
Yeah, I believe it's a Wednesday. It's the 26th of July. And last year, Steve Timko, who had been, one of our original chapter members, passed away, unfortunately, pretty quickly. And so us as a chapter, we rebranded it as the Steve Timko Golf Outing. And this will be our second annual, I think 33rd annual overall. And so it's a great event. And I actually talked to Steve's wife, Sherry, a couple weeks ago, and just to make sure that like it wasn't going to be a disingenuous idea, I wanted to get a life-size cutout of Steve to display at the golf outing. So that's something neat that we're going to do, and she said that he would have loved it. So we're moving forward with that plan. And then also for chapter appreciation points, right? Our plan is to offer free hot dogs, pop and drink to all chapter members if they can confirm their number at the turn. And that's an easy way to points for us. So, how about you?
Well, hold on. I got to ask one quick question. If I can't make it, but I can give you my chapter number, what's it going to cost me for a cutout? And we'll put it out like in the 9th hole. It's going to look like Sasquatch. We can put it in the woods. That'd be perfect.
$5.
I'm planning on heading up there for that event, but for some reason I can't make it. I want to be there in spirit and maybe hiding in the woods. And then I'll get you my chapter number so you can feed me if my cardboard cutout.
I love it.
Of course, I'll need pictures. So, which is never a problem when I'm with your chapter. We always seem to have phones out and cameras going. So, our golf outing we push ours later in the year. So we're September 21st. It's a Thursday. Anybody that's been to ours, same course, Woodwind Golf Course there in Fishers area. I just put together a quick save the date flyer today. So hopefully we can get that out to the membership and then to our vendors, of course. But really excited for those. A lot of fun to have, good time with the vendors. We try to do a night before, and we're going to try to put that on the books if we can get a space somewhere, and do kind of an appreciation towards our vendors that night before. Meet for drinks and have some food, finger foods and things like that. So looking real forward to that. Should be a good one.
Yeah, that kind of touched earlier on what
out.
you had said, appreciation for vendors, and that's kind of thematic with our special guest today too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that covers a lot of our chapter updates and some things that are going on. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of the show, so to speak.
All right.
So, Eric, I will turn it over to you if you want to give a quick introduction to our special guest today.
I would like to introduce Jeff Haggerty, President and CEO of Digitrace. And welcome to the show today, Jeff.
Oh, hey, thank you. Thanks, Eric, Rick. Really appreciate you having me on. I'm super excited to be here. Can't wait to hear what you're going to ask me next.
Well, yeah, so President and CEO of Digitrace. What about your chapter relations with SCTE? You want to tell us a little bit about your chapter and your role there with the chapter?
Sure. My chapter is the Lake Michigan chapter. I am currently the president of the chapter. I've been a board member for about 7 years now. I've had every role: treasurer, chapter knowledge officer, vice president, now president. I took over after our previous president got a promotion, moved states, and just couldn't quite, juggle the new child, the new house, the new state, and the new job all at the same time. Loving the way our chapter is going right now. We've brought in a lot of new blood. We honestly have people call us up every week, one of our board members, and want to be an assistant board member. We have added 18 new people to our board in the last 4 months. So really excited there. And I got the opportunity to tell the chapter after the first matrix came out that we actually had more points in the first quarter of 2023 than we had in all of 2022. So they've been doing some great work. Just really, the energy level is immense. So it's wonderful to be part of. I get way more credit than I deserve for being the president. But it's just such a great group to work with. I'm super excited about where the rest of the year is going to take us.
That sounds amazing, Jeff. So can we start and kind of go back, right? Maybe rewind back to your beginnings with Digitrace, kind of how you got involved with the MSO and telecom industry.
Sure. So I used to work in automotive manufacturing, if you can believe that. I made an exciting product, valve springs and transmission springs. I made a lot of them, but they're not terribly exciting for most people. About that time, I was a victim of a reduction in force. I was out looking for a job, and a gentleman named Paul Hales, who started Digitrace back in 1983, happened to be looking for somebody to take over so that he would have an opportunity to do some retirement and take care of his body. Just so happens that Paul's son, Brian, was my best man, and I was Brian's best man. So I knew Paul from the time, I was 11 years old. It just became a great match. I mean, the hardest part was, being in a large manufacturing facility that was, a $50 million a year facility. I had a bigger sales number in 1 week than Digitrace had in a year. So it was a big change for me to come into a small organization like this, but it's been great. And I guess the best part about being in the telecommunications industry is that it's not boring. It will be different tomorrow. As you guys are well aware, something is going to change in between today and tomorrow, and you will have to learn something new, and you will have to get a new skill. You'll have to meet a new person. It is always changing and fun and exciting that way. So, that's kind of how I got here. It's been an interesting ride since I've been here. We've been up, we've been down, we've done more, we've done less. And, like I said, it's a constant change, but that actually is what keeps it fresh.
Well, and you nailed it, right? Eric talked about it a little bit in the intro about all the moving pieces and some stuff that was happening in his world. I would echo the change piece in the industry. Whether you're at a big MSO, you're in a repair facility, or even a manufacturer producing the new parts. One of my favorite pieces of the job is that change, right? The new technology, the new stuff coming out. How do we learn how to use it right? Find some experts on it, things like that. Change in the industry is inevitable. Change is something that is hard to accept sometimes, but also one of my favorite parts about it. So,
the other cool thing I found out about this industry. So when I made springs are not very exciting to most people, but I made a very, very high tech spring. Okay. And when you say that to somebody, they're like, F equals 1/2 KX, whatever. But it's the same with the cable industry. When most people think of the cable industry, what we think of is we think the service technician that comes to our house sometime between 9 in the morning and 5 p.m. because we offer big windows. And that's where the general public stops in their thought process about the cable industry.
You nailed that.
And they don't think about all this other really amazing stuff. We just had our vendor day, and Eric was kind of talking about his a little bit. We had the first robotics teams from 3 area high schools there. It was awesome. One of the reasons why is that you get to introduce these budding engineers to an industry where it's more than just plugging something into the back of the TV. All the stuff that goes into this, all the electronics, even the mechanics, it's just so amazing. So it's a fun industry to be in. And I just love the fact that, again, when I first got into it, my impression is, hey, I'll be here sometime between 9 and 1, and I'm going to plug something to the back of the TV, and then you realize that that's 1% of what actually happens. So it's wonderful.
It's very cool. You must have brought out like a whole new generation, or at least a thought of generation, with the robotics thing. It makes me think about high school kids, college kids, and interests. Like how are we going to bring up the next generation into our industry? And that's a great thing that you did.
It was a lot of fun. And And you know, as you guys are well aware, vendor days are not necessarily the most exciting events. This definitely took them up a notch. Yeah, I can see you shaking your head. You know, especially if you're a vendor and you've already been to 8 of them this year. They're kind of the same. So the robotics really actually made it fun for us as well, and helped bring some of that, you know, enthusiasm back to the floor.
So let me ask you about your vendor show a little bit, Jeff. You as a vendor, and I know you've hit the road. You know, Central Indiana's was a few weeks back. You went to Eric's vendor show, and then your actual vendor show. How do you juggle that role as president and the workload to set up a vendor show and the time that takes? And then how do you manage through that at the vendor show where typically you're set up at a table, you know, working for your business? What did that look like for you this year?
So there are 2 great things with regard to that being in my particular situation. Number one, I'm a very small business. So I don't necessarily have 45 people all trying to get a hold of me at any single moment. So it's easier for me to partition the time off for that type of time. The second thing is I had a really great support staff that did vendor day. The guy that took care of vendor day for us this year, Jordan Kelcherman, new board member. He's been on the board 6 months now. Jumped in, took over vendor day, knocked it out of the park. Had a crew of 3 or 4 people. Every now and then I had to chime in, and then I had to show up and I had to make a speech on the day of. That was what I had to do to make vendor day work. Now, as the president of the chapter, I made sure I got to every vendor, thanked them for being there, and some of those types of things that, you know, just kind of making those things happen. But the reality was, juggling it, I was able to be there primarily as a vendor. And you know, 80% of my time was as a vendor. 20% of my time was as chapter president. So great, having a great support crew. You know, it's a bummer for me for those chapters that don't have that, because they'll never know just how much fun an event like that can be, because they're too busy being busy putting the event on.
No, you're 100% right. And I had a question for you from earlier, but you kind of talked into it. You know, you've had some churn on your board. This is a question that comes up all the time. Eric and I sit on the chapter leadership conference subcommittee. I think you might also soon. But
really?
One of the things that come up all the time.
Fantastic news. All right.
We'll see.
Somebody
put their name in the hat, so we'll see. I'll talk to the chairman and see what we can do there. This guy's got a temper, I'll tell you, but we can work with that. One of the questions that comes up is, how do you find these volunteers to help on the board? And then I guess I would ask, just between us, is how do you know that that's the right person? Like, what are you looking for in a volunteer to be part of your board to make it successful?
So the main thing that we as a board are looking for is, we're looking for someone that has at least enough energy to participate and engage. We're not so worried about someone that wants to do everything, but when somebody says, hey, I'd like to be a board member, before we'll approve them, we basically send out a little 5-point note. All right, you are committing to being a member. You're committing to signing the conflict of interest. You are committing to being on at least one committee. You are committing to participating in regular meetings. You don't have to make it to all of them, but you have to participate in most of them. And you're committed to the idea of basically trying to help fulfill the mission of training, to the members. And we started, I don't think it's right in the book. So we all know that this is what a board member should be doing. But I never had seen it articulated. And by articulating it, at the beginning of this year, we had several board members that actually resigned because they didn't feel like they could make that commitment to be on a committee and to attend meetings, which was great. I don't have any hard feelings against them, and they made room for somebody else. But when somebody else wants to come on board, first thing we tell them is, you have to commit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you can't do those basics, please don't take a spot on our board. And it's worked out great. it also helps, like I said, we have some great energy going with a few of our newest elected board members. And it's absolutely just attracts other people. Look, leaders, you attract the flies with honey. We're attracting people with our excitement. We're attracting people with our involvement. We're demonstrating, we're actually doing what we want our assistant board members and other board members to do. And it's just bringing more and more people on every week. For the last several weeks, like I've said, I've had at least one person volunteer for the board. We're full. It's great.
Well, that's awesome.
But you really got to be, as the leader, you got to live that, and you got to have your main leaders live that. And if they can't, well, maybe it's a hard conversation, but you got to have it. So we did, and we've made room.
Now,
sometimes getting to that end result isn't easy, right?
Right.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I was gonna segue into that. Like, what do your tough conversations look like? Because you just talked about a lot of churning out and bringing in the new blood. Is it like a chance or a situation, for said board member to plead his case, and you kind of document it? Is this something you still want to do? How do those conversations go without offending the person?
I like to use the phrase, "Hey, we're seeing that you're not being engaged," and it could be for a lot of reasons. Your position has changed. This isn't what you want to do, or whatever. But we're noticing that you're not very engaged. What can we do to change that? What do you need from the rest of the board to increase your engagement? And at that point in time, each of the people that I've asked that question to have said, I'm just so busy, I don't think I can. At that point in time, Eric, to your point, you're not trying to offend somebody, you're not trying to cut somebody's head off. You got to say, hey, you know what? We understand, it's okay. If you don't have time for this right now, but you would like to, come back to it later, great. And again, in every case, every person that has resigned from our board thanked me as they were resigning, because we just gave them an out to say, hey, it's okay if you don't have the time. You guys, I don't know how you do it. You get thousands of emails every day. Okay. It's crazy. It's nuts. You guys are in a very stressful, demanding 24/7 industry. And for some folks, it just gets overwhelming, as it changes. So that's how the conversations go. I like to start it out as, this is the behavior that we're seeing. How can we change it? And then from there, see where the conversation goes. Don't be accusatory. How can we work together to solve it?
That's great advice. That's great wisdom for chapters out there too that might be struggling with things like that. So thank you for that, Jeff.
Cool.
Jeff, I'm going to pull off a random question.
All right, I like it.
But I know you'll have a good answer for me. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not much of a book reader, because I just learned how. But
congratulations.
I do spend a lot of time in a vehicle. I know you do. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I know you spend some time in a vehicle as well, with work duties and things. What's your favorite book? I'm an Audible guy. I'm books on tape, but I love I always ask, if I get a chance, ask somebody what's their favorite book, and then maybe why.
Okay, I don't know if I can say that I have one favorite book, but I can tell you what I'm reading right now. Okay, and I know that sounds crazy, but I probably, I read 40 or 50 books a year, so I do get a lot of reading in.
Is this that same book you shared with me
Stop.
on the plane on the flight back to Michigan? Oh,
yeah.
All right. I'm not trying to spoil it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait a second. Which one did I give you?
Hold on. Let's wait.
I know which
we'll
one.
See. 40
right,
or
so,
50 books a year.
Yes.
I can't even listen to that many. So hats off to you for making that time.
Well, so, that's one of my hobbies. But, if you're going to listen to books, I can tell you right now, the CJ Box series, with a guy he's got a main character named Joe Pickett. It's absolutely fun. It's a light reader, but you're going to learn something. He's a game warden in Wyoming. You're going to learn a little bit about Wyoming. You're going to learn a little bit about being a game warden, and you're going to get to solve a mystery. So if you're looking for something lighthearted that you can kind of listen to and pay 80% attention to, that's a great one. If you're looking for a self-help type book, if you haven't heard of David Goggins, he's a little bit in your face style. Matter of fact, if
that's
you're offended
the one.
by cuss words, I would not listen to him. If you're offended by cuss words, I wouldn't listen to David Goggins. But he has an amazing story, retired Navy SEAL, and I can tell you right now, he should never have made it out of childhood. He should have been a statistic. If you think that you have an excuse as to why you're not successful, this guy has every reason and more to have never been successful and will eat any excuse that you have alive. Absolutely amazing, very inspirational. Lovely story. But again, if you're offended by swear words, you don't want it, because he's raw too. He's really raw. And then I would say, and then I read a lot of like little leadership books, and not necessarily any one at a time, but if you're ever going to jump into leadership books, the unequivocal expert is John Maxwell. And so, I literally read a chapter every day out of the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. And you read something like that for your own inspiration so that you can become a better person and a better leader. So those are kind of the things I like. It all depends on what you're going for, but I try to figure out a way to read an hour a day, and it's a little bit of nonfiction, it's a little bit of fiction, it's a little bit of philosophy.
Nice. I appreciate that. Always good to have some extra stuff to read, or maybe in my case, listen to a little bit, right?
It counts as far as I'm concerned.
That's
good.
Read it,
everybody. Yep.
So Jeff, what
Absolutely.
about some Lake Michigan trainings? You got anything to plug as far as your chapter goes for trainings upcoming?
We do have a couple things coming up. We have one thing on the calendar for June 14th. We're doing a connectorization training with Corning. As the move to high split comes, stuff like this is becoming more and more important. And then you mentioned the DAA and RFI, and we'll be tagging along on that in July and August to do some of that work. That's not scheduled yet, but those are on our agenda. The other interesting thing about training that we are doing is at the end of our vendor day, we had a strategic meeting with 5 regional and vice presidents of charter, and we sat down and we talked about how we want to handle training going forward. And we, as the SCTE group up there, are working with a couple of vendors to facilitate some train the trainer type of materials, where we record an hour of material with a vendor, and then the train the trainer will have it on site, and then he or she will have that recorded material plus their time on site to do specific tasks. So like this connectorization is our first experiment with this. The vendor will be training what we call subject matter experts, and then they will take that forward and they'll have the recorded version plus what they learned and take it to each of their tech groups. That way we can reach more people. We're not, we all work for matrix points. I know that and understand it.
No.
And we're not sure. Yeah. Well, and we're not sure even if we're going to be able to get any for this, because, how are we going to keep track of all of this and everything else? But what we did know is that we are delivering on the SCTE mission to bring technical training to the membership. And our attitude is, if we fulfill the mission of SCTE to bring this technical training to the membership, the points will follow somewhere. So do the right thing, do it the right way. Points, whatever points happen.
Couldn't agree anymore.
But that's how we're actually approaching training.
Nice.
Yeah, it should be a fun experiment, and with the folks that we have from Charter that are on board, it should get great support. So like I said, I was sitting down with a couple of VPs and a couple of directors at the table just talking about this idea, so it was really good.
Nice. And
then our golf outing September 12th.
Yep.
Woohoo! And where's
there,
that at,
right?
Jeff?
It's up at Lake Isabella up near Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
We're also going to do a membership, a leadership follow-up that day. So we're actually working on bringing in a speaker to speak after golf. And that speaker will actually, we're working on finding someone to focus on the work-life integration, mental health aspects of being a leader in the telecommunications industry. Once we have that solidified, we'll make sure that you guys all know about it. But that's actually kind of an add-on to our February leadership meeting that we had that was wildly successful. People loved it. And
I'll second
literally
that.
is the highest rated training that we've had.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of sad that I didn't get to come up there. Sam and I had planned to take the drive up there, but evidently, Mother Nature had other things in store that day as far as a snowstorm goes, so I had to watch it from
Excuses.
home. On the video. Yeah.
Apparently he hasn't read the Goggins book yet.
Yeah.
No. Rick, how about your favorite book, since you're on that topic? And not to put you on the spot, because I'm not a book reader either. I can give you the last book I read, but
I think you asked me what my favorite book is.
yeah.
Give me 2 seconds, because I don't want to get the name wrong. But I do have a favorite, and it's kind of in line, we'll say, with what Jeff, his guy. But mine is Extreme Ownership. Jeff, you've probably exactly right. And kind of to the point, is he can take any situation, and I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people are quick to say, oh, that's not my fault. He can take any situation, and he relates it all back to his military experience and how, it probably was your fault. You could have owned that a little differently. So that was something that I want to say Tom Pardo maybe had passed on to us, years ago. And I absolutely love it. And if anybody's looking for one that, if they like a little military, I got some military folks in my family, so I've got a strong tie there. So anything military I geek out about. The book's great, well written. The audio is good too, because the author.
Does he read it?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So maybe next time you take a long drive, Jeff, it's something to put the earbuds on. It's worth. And it's him. There's another that was one of the SEALs with him. Then they go back and forth, but it's pretty good. So, what about you? Lead, win, laws of combat. Yeah, there you go.
Very nice.
I was just looking at this today. That's funny that you brought it up.
Yeah, well, I think it's, and especially from like a personal development. Since I was a little kid, Mom always said you need to read books so you know how to talk to people, learn words, things like that. I didn't listen. I have a real listening problem. But now as I get older, I kick myself, right? Like most of us do from those lessons that our parents shared. But, it is what it is. So.
Yeah. I think mine would have to be Ready Player One. And Jeff Leggett, actually, funny enough, or coincidentally enough, had brought it up this week, from Cable Labs as part of our technical training at Vendor Day. I was like, wow, awesome that he had brought up that book. And I had read the book before I saw the movie. It was a great movie, too. So, yeah, I'm more of that sci-fi nut if we're talking about, movies or books even. If the synopsis is it starts in the year 2050 or in the year 2050, yeah.
You're in. Excellent.
Yeah, I like all different things, right? So I like sci-fi. I like everything. There's bad stuff, and it could be your favorite thing in the world. But I'd say I didn't know that about you, Eric, but I had a feeling.
Nice. Well, you were spot on, man. So.
I had a little feeling that you'd go down there, but no, all good.
But you didn't know the answer to life, the universe, and everything, Eric.
Oh, I did not. You got me there. Yeah. Yeah. Blaine Reed and I both, actually. Right? Yeah. As we were walking back there.
So you can put that one on your list. Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Nice.
It's a little weird.
So I know that there's the book, but didn't they make a movie of it?
Yes, they did.
I'm sure not. No movie owns up to the books, but.
Oh, I can just tell you right now, I think the movie in its own way does own up to the books, because it's every bit as discombobulated and weird as the book. Absolutely.
Perfect.
I promise you, it is a weird movie and it's a weird book. Fun though.
We'll have to check it out. So as we talk through some of these things and the different things that you're working on there, Jeff, with your chapter, as we get closer towards the end of the podcast, I want to ask you pretty much one last good question. Maybe it's not good, but what does the future look like for Jeff Haggerty? What does Jeff want to do in the next 5-10 years? Is it, and it could be simple, I want to continue with Digitrace and, continue to be a great person, things like that. Or maybe it's a little bit more, but in an interview, we got to have that last thought. And I think it'd be good to close out on, what's the future look like for Jeff Haggerty? What do you want to do? Where are your aspirations? Lay it on us. Give us the goods.
All right, sure. So my last year or so, I'm a husband, father. I'm 51 years old. And so I've gotten to this point where obviously I had a lot of life transitions for me. My youngest is a sophomore in college, et cetera, et cetera. So last year I kind of embarked on a journey of personal growth. And that's where I want my future to go. I plan on sticking with Digitrace. I plan on, helping build the company with the idea that 10 years from now, I'm going to hand it to my employees. This is in what I want to be doing by the end of 10 years from now, because I want to be that leadership coach. I want to be not just inspired by people, but I want to be able to inspire people. And I think that that's an interesting difference that maybe we don't always think about. When you read a book like David Goggins or, Extreme Ownership or whatever, you're always inspired. But what do you got to do to be that inspirational person? So that's what this next 5 to 10 years looks like for me. How do I start down that path? And, I've already begun to do that. I spoke at our February leadership meeting on values as the basis for leadership. That talk has gotten some legs. I'll be representing that in August at the Great Lakes chapter leadership meeting. Also then be presenting that in September at Texarkana and a couple others in Texas. So, this idea is getting some legs, and I think I can take this and run with it. I have a passion for it. I've been helping with a leadership camp for scouts for years. Why not apply it to what I do on an everyday basis? Why not mentor my employees more? Why not mentor, not just the youth? Actually, part of my mission statement, my personal mission statement is I will serve and mentor others of all walks of life, helping them to achieve their fullest potential. That's what in my next 10 years I want to look like. I want to see my fullest potential. I want to see the people around me with their fullest potential.
That's great stuff. Is there any chance you'll be writing a book too?
Well, to actually be a professional leadership coach, it almost seems like a prerequisite that you have a book. There are some scratches of some ideas. That's about it right now. So I got some scratches. Maybe 6 months from now, we can come back on and we can have a follow-up conversation. Maybe there'll be more than a scratch. But yeah, I think that I have enough experience and background at this point in time in my life that some of this wisdom will work. And again, leadership is not new. None of this stuff that we're saying is incredibly revolutionary. Sun Tzu said it, 2,500 years ago. So, this is not new stuff. But to understand how to take something that's been in development for literally thousands of years and apply it to what's going to happen tomorrow is where you get the new. And that's what I want to be doing. That's the plan. Digitrace is part of that, but the main idea behind Digitrace being part of it is that I will mentor my employees so that 10 years from now, it's theirs, not mine.
That's really neat and good for them to have, something to look forward to from the business side, right? Whether they know it or not, that's not something that's common anymore. Used to be. You used to hear about that a lot more back in the day. Jeff, in my experience and different interactions with you, the one thing I will say is you're always there to offer me advice, and you always have been, and it means a lot to me.
Hopefully it's good advice.
You haven't steered me wrong, and we get way off topic. I still do. I always do, and I always probably will. But I love your passion for that, and I think if anybody can make it happen, it's you, with your drive. I think
Thank you.
This is probably the kickoff to that. And Eric, I probably agree here that, this is really going to accelerate that leadership mindset and growth, this podcast here. So we'll talk royalties later.
Absolutely. You take PayPal, you take Venmo, Cash App, which is it? Yeah.
If that doesn't work, you may need some security. If you get super famous and you need security, the one thing I can't change is how big I am. So
you'd be perfect security there, Rick. Yeah.
That's all I'm good for. So I want to say real quick, and then I'll turn it over to Eric, is really appreciate you taking time out for this. You said in the beginning about the growth piece, and get comfortable with being uncomfortable is something you hear a lot in leadership. I think that's part of the reason I'm on the podcast with Eric. Eric is the most energetic SCTE member I've ever met. He brings that contagious attitude with him anywhere he goes, and especially at events.
I appreciate
he asked me to
Rick.
do this with him. It's all. It's true, and a lot of people see it, Eric. But that's part of my growth and development too. Is let's do something different. Let's have some fun with it. I couldn't be more pleased that you took time out of your day to entertain us, and kind of introduce maybe some people to you that maybe they don't know Jeff. So I think we've got a couple. I think Fallows has got a couple jokes, but I'm going to turn it over to Eric if you want to close us out, and then how about we end with a couple jokes you got, and Jeff, if you got one, if you got yours.
All right, I'll go first.
I do.
Oh, nice. You can go first,
Okay.
Jeff. Yeah, you can go first.
Well, first in all seriousness, thank you guys for having me on. I really enjoyed this. Obviously, I'm passionate about it. I love talking about these types of things, and I really, wish you well in your next, and I realize that not every special guest will be as special as me, but good luck getting the next one, and we'll make it run with it. But no, thank you so much. I love it. And so if Eric's gonna end with a couple jokes, I was gonna tell you guys a pizza joke, but I decided not to because it's probably too cheesy. So I'll let Eric go from there.
What a setup.
All right, so we got Cable Dad jokes, right? So first one goes, I caught my daughter chewing on electrical cords, so I had to ground her. And she's doing better currently in conducting herself properly. All right.
Is this original stuff, Eric?
No, I found them. This is another good one, too. I've got a supply chain joke. You just might not get it for a while.
Boy, that is the world we live in. I love it.
It is.
I'm going to take that one back to the warehouse with me. Well, Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you want a couple words of wisdom as we roll into the weekend? And again, guys, both of you, Eric, Jeff, it's great time spent. Always good to chat with you guys. Eric,
I
close
feel
us
the
out,
same
would
way.
ya?
Sure. Yeah. Jeff, thanks for coming on today and providing your knowledge and wisdom from a leadership perspective. And we see it too in our board member, Lori Talent. And I'm sure she's proud to work for Digitrace. And she's a great chapter member too. She does a tremendous amount of work for us every year. And I can't thank you enough for allowing her to be in our chapter. But yeah.
Absolutely. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll get this one posted up and shared so we can make Jeff famous. And till next time, guys.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Hopefully he can stop the recording. Jeff, you're